our security check, and please, we may request for an orderly house. All right. So let me just introduce our guests, and now that the stage is free, Mr. Rakesh Bharti Mittal, Vice Chairman of the Bharti Enterprises. Ladies and gentlemen, please put a round applause for Mr. Rakesh Bharti Mittal, Vice Chairman of the Bharti Enterprises, and Shobna Kamineni, who is the Executive Chairperson of Apollo Health & Co. and Promoter Director of Apollo Hospitals Enterprise Limited.
In fact, Sajit Mangat, the Executive Editor, Senior Executive Editor of ET Now, will be moderating this discussion. Over to you, Sajit.
Thank you, Rakesh and Shobna, for joining us on Global Business Summit. Our topic is the meritocracy blueprint and architecting India's global story in this century, basically. To begin with, we're speaking about India, the next century belonging to India. How do you think, meritocracy will play a big role in that? Rakesh?
Thank you and good evening to all. So I think this is one area where I believe the nation as a whole, and more importantly the Indian industry and corporate India, need to realize that ultimately if we have to really scale up businesses, build up capacities in India, whether it is the services or manufacturing sector, meritocracy is something which is going to be extremely important. And to my mind, I think that is one thing which we have imbibed at Bharti Enterprises across all our businesses. For example, take Airtel. I can tell you that the leadership team we have is amongst the best, not just only in India, globally. For that, you need to empower your teams. For that, you need to be transparent in your dealings with your own people, your partners, and going beyond that, to have faith with a clear vision laid out for them to really, move ahead and build up the businesses. If you see today from India, Bharti has become not only a success story within the country, but we've expanded to Africa, Asian countries, picking up stake in British Telecom. If you look at on the satellite services side, OneWeb, which is now part of Eutelsat. So these are the things which have stood the test of time. So clearly, these are the areas we need to invest. Talent will only stay when merit is rewarded. In our own case, our own kids, they are not in the business. They are doing whatever they want to. They can build their own businesses. They can do whatever their passion is. But they cannot come into a company and just paratroop themselves and start asking questions. And I think this is something which we are very, very proud of, having created that work culture within Bharti. Every decision is taken as a team discussion, unanimous decisions. We challenge the teams, the team challenges us. And I think that is the right way of building the multinationals, true Indian multinationals, who can not only think of excelling in India, but becoming global players.
Shobna, healthcare is one of the sectors where, meritocracy plays a bigger role. How do you plan for that so that you become a bigger powerhouse from a healthcare point of view?
So I think that in healthcare, it's a natural win almost, because every time a doctor is there, he's actually, there's a life at stake. So you have to be at a certain skill set. It's just like you fly in a plane. You're not going to do that with any kind of amateur. So there's a first level of meritocracy. And how do we build for that at scale? So I think that that is the real challenge for us. And now we've seen, and it's not a phenomenon of 1 year or 1 decade, but it's actually generational. That Indian doctors have created their own mark everywhere in the world, where they have been running the NHS in the US. I mean, these are systems that run at the peak. That if you look at scientific advancement and all that, there'll always be Indians on that. Now the idea for us in meritocracy is, how can we scale this? How can we build more and more Indians who will rise to that global level? And I would say that in this decade, it becomes a whole lot easier than it was before, because just look at, it's easy for me to say AI, but I really want to give you two use cases where it works for us. Now, for instance, in robotics, in an operating theater, it is just, if you're the most fantastic surgeon, you're not going to need that. Just like if you're the most fantastic leader, you don't need a background. You can instinctively run a country, you can instinctively win wars or do whatever that you want. But what happens in an operating theater is that if you're a brilliant surgeon, you will have those outcomes. But not everyone is that. But if you have a robot working with them, we've seen that kids that have 10 days experience with robots, they can go in and do surgeries. That is building meritocracy. And I think that's a huge use case. The second thing is that if a kid passes out of All India Institute, or IIT, you know that they're at a higher level, and they have to sit and see the same patient as someone who passes out from a medical college in one of the districts. With that, that's where meritocracy comes. That if we're using an AI layer to be able to train those guys so that 80% of the decision making is presented in front of them. And that's the way that you train. So I think this century of meritocracy, it's going to actually be so much aided by the technology that we're bringing to bear and how it becomes live.
Rakesh, we are in the age of AI. Here we are seeing a lot of meritocracy being tested primarily because of legacy, relationship, hierarchy, and many of the Indian businesses face this challenge. How far is the Indian business from, adapting meritocracy in a big way, giving talent the due opportunity there?
Well, I would say, this is something which is really facing us all globally. Every day there is a new innovation. Every day there are different variants of AI which sort of hits us. Clearly, to my mind, for that, if I talk from the perspective of India, we need to be cognizant of that this is something which is a reality. It cannot be wished away. Artificial intelligence. And it is going to work in every domain of our lives. And therefore, to my mind, we need to first strengthen and focus this area more in the academia itself. When we talk of the demographic dividend of India, we need to prepare our youth for these AI-centric jobs. And for that, curriculum, review, content, everything needs to be done. Probably as of yesterday, we are losing time every day on that. And for that, industry needs to be sitting across the table with academia on not only just reviewing what they need to do on the curriculum, but more importantly, telling what is happening in the world, what we expect from the next generations, and so that they are prepared, not only to do jobs, they are also prepared to run their own businesses, whether they are startups, and to use the benefit of AI, because it has leapfrogged. I mean, to my mind, it's not an evolution. This is a revolution which is happening today, what I see. And whether it is in the domain of data information, looking at, having information at the press of a button, you don't have to really apply your mind today. The devices in your hand with the AI tools give you everything what you want. And that is my worry. The worry is that in the short to medium term, will the generation, the next gen, stop using their mind, stop thinking? We saw what happened. The reading habits have gone out. They just need 4 lines to see what they want. As a summary, they don't read newspapers, they don't read books. So short to medium term, I see this a great challenge. And the other challenge is going to be ethical use of artificial intelligence. That is one big question which is facing us all over the world. And to my mind, the makers of AI and the users of AI must ensure how best and ethically this can be used for the benefit of mankind.
Rakesh, we always said that demographic dividend is our strength. Do you think that's at risk because of AI now?
Sorry, I didn't get it.
Is it at risk because of AI?
I'm not saying risk. I'm saying there is a risk in short to medium term. Long term, of course, I mean, this is going to be hugely beneficial for us all. Are we ready today? The answer is no. Do we need to get ready? The answer is absolutely yes as of yesterday. So everyone needs to really put their minds together to make sure that we are preparing our generations, we are preparing the workforce accordingly, and to take advantage both on the services and manufacturing sector, we are putting the right kind of research and innovation, right kind of capital which is needed, of course. A huge capital deployment will happen on this. So all this, if I look at as an opportunity for India, absolutely a great one.
Shobna, do you think the youth is able to adapt AI? And when you look at healthcare sector where you operate in, is AI going to challenge the healthcare sector in a big way from a talent point of view?
I think that AI will exponentially improve the healthcare sector. It will also bring down a lot of the cost and create inclusivity, because that worries me. Because we're bringing out on one side $1 million therapies. How many people can afford it? And we're looking at at the metros that every doctor wants to be in, so we build hospitals there. But what happens when you go slightly interior? And this is where I think that AI will actually narrow that band, that we'll create more inclusivity in bringing down costs so that people will get diagnosed better, faster, and it'll cost us less. Just like, we're using it today to read MRIs, we're using it to read a lot of the diagnostic tests and be able to give those answers, and you can keep the costs down. On the other side, when we can do it through, when he gives me such good latency with this thing in 5G, I can actually, the doctors can be in Indraprastha Apollo and operate somewhere in the smaller town in India just with a junior doctor. So I think as soon as we start adapting, and it will take more people to fuel this. It's not that, I don't think that this whole thing of how are people going to get replaced? We are the consumers. At the end of the day, a robot is not going to pay or want something. They're not going to need food. They're not going to need entertainment. They're not going to need sport. So it'll always be for people that things will get created. But one thing I want to leave you with, and interesting, I think that both of us looked at that statistic. At the turn of this century, China will probably, their population will go down to almost a third. And you're going to need humans in many of these countries. If you look at Japan, if you look at all these countries, they're going to need India to be able to service a graying world. So I think there's a huge opportunity in terms of a demographic dividend for India if we can train everybody properly and use these tools. So this is a century where I'm fairly optimistic.
If I may just add, the other sector which is going to hugely benefit is education. And from India's viewpoint, AI tools will be critical for building teacher capacity. 1 million plus teachers all over the country, not only just training, but continuous upskilling. How to deliver lectures, pedagogy, and more importantly for the teachers in government schools. To my mind, that is one big challenge which this country faces. In fact, the Bharti Airtel Foundation has launched the Teacher app. We are actually announcing in the next few days, taking it to a full suite of class 12. So it's just not curriculum and content for a CBSE affiliated board. It is the best learning practices. The teachers will have a community platform to talk to each other. Already they are posting what they are doing, which is becoming available to the teaching community. So the moment we can look at capacity building of teachers with high quality delivery in classrooms, you start seeing the entire education system moving from school to the higher education level.
If I were to ask you, what is the kind of structural shift that is required from a capital point of view, talent point of view, and policy point of view for Indian companies to become truly global leaders, not just in telecom, but also in healthcare? What would be these changes that would be needed?
I think that's a very good question, Sajid. To my mind, first of all, as I mentioned earlier, corporate India and the Indian industry, they need to buckle up their belts, seat belts, whatever we may say, build scale, be more ambitious. And when I say build scale, if you have to, we have amongst the second largest consuming population in the world. You have to first build for the population within. Then you are wanting to look at exports, which need to be, at least 50% higher in the next 4 or 5 years than what we are doing today. So the scale is very important. The policy issues to really look at Indian companies going multinational or global, one is the policy predictability. I think that is something which is extremely important for anyone to come and invest in India, or for that matter in the Indian industry, investing in that. Regulatory issues, rules, regulations, telecom, semiconductors. These are the sectors which will need billions of dollars to be invested, 15 to 20 years of viability of a project to start making profits. So they are long-term projects. So clearly that is one area which needs to be looked at. The second is on the energy. I think that is going to be a huge demand. With the data centers coming up, they are energy guzzlers. So we need to look at that. India has started investing into chip manufacturing, semiconductors. That is going to be the key. Today, if you see any manufacturing or services product, it's the chipset which is not available. I mean, the prices have really skyrocketed. Access to low-cost capital.
Yeah. Please continue.
I'm bugging you.
You're bugging me? Okay, good. So these are the areas where I believe that Indian industry will be able to go global, look at scale, and take India to the next level.
Shobna, quickly, we are running out of time.
Quickly, yeah. If we had more Airtels in this country, we would be on a good wicket. But I think that many countries aspire to do what they've done at scale. But in India, for healthcare, I would just ask for two things. One is that make healthcare universally, health insurance a universal necessity, because now the penetration is so low. Just imagine if we could get, and for the lower, this thing, the government is providing Ayushman Bharat, but I think universally if we make health insurance, then the rest of the guardrails will get put, as long as we don't have data silos. Remove data silos, get universal health coverage, and then I think that we will all play again to those rules, and the industry will change and possibly improve. And the last thing I would like to say is, if we had done this same summit last year, this session would have been about diversity, not about meritocracy. That word has gone out.
On that note, Rakesh and Shobna, thank you very much for joining us today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mittal, Ms. Kamineni, and Sajid for moderating that session. Ladies and gentlemen, it's now time for us to move on to our next session this evening. And Amita, this is a special one. In fact, we will be very soon getting on stage Her Majesty Queen Rania Al Abdullah. She's the Queen of the Hashemite Kingdom of Jordan.